Welcome everyone to Institution of Civil Engineers building here to our Engineers Ireland event. My name is Dominic Forbes. I am the chair of the GB region. I'd like to welcome you all tonight to this fantastic talk on how to beat the competition with the Building Safety Act. Hopefully tonight we will learn about Building Safety Act and how alignment with it will ensure your organization's success as it's gradually rolled out in all parts of the construction industry. And we have a wonderful speaker tonight, John Ryan, Chartered Engineer. John is a Chartered Mechanical Engineer, former lead designer, design engineer and senior project manager with over 15 years construction experience working with Laing O'Rourke, Tideway and Network Rail. His experience covers a variety of projects and mega projects such as Crossrail East Project, Tideway Tunnel, and London Underground Station renovations. John is a co-founder of SimTerra, which is a site communication platform for the built environment. So very interesting talk coming up. One piece of housekeeping for you, there is a Q&A section on the Zoom platform, which you will see hopefully at the top of your screen. If you have any questions, please pop it into that and we'll take those at the end of the presentation. So welcome yet again, and I'll hand you over to our presenter, John. Thank you.
Dominic, for that introduction. I'm just going to go off and clean up the screen here a little bit so I can see everything that I'm looking at. So thanks very much for joining us this evening for this talk, wherever you're dialing in from. As Dominic kind of outlined, I'm the co-founder of SimTerra, it's a construction technology company located in London. But I do have quite a lot of experience in the construction space, over 15 years, predominantly in regulated environments. So I spent a lot of my time working with standards, regulations, and making sure that we've got compliance across the project from the very beginning. So I've been lucky enough to spend those time in those projects. And it's kind of what I'm going to share with you this evening is what I've learned from those ones and how I see that they can be applicable within the Building Safety Act to help you move forward. So in this talk, we'll go through the opportunities to gain an edge on the competition using the Building Safety Act as a framework. Here we're going to focus on opportunities it will create for forward-thinking companies to reduce costs, improve profit margins, and increase efficiencies. We split into three parts: where we are now, what is changing in the future, and how we're going to go off and win in this space in your projects and your businesses. So I'm happy to take any questions at the end, as Dominic's kind of outlined. So as a quick overview, the Building Safety Act itself is a high-level summary. It was enacted in April 22 this year, and due to the findings in the Grenfell inquiry, which found a number of shortcomings in the industry and how the works are being undertaken. It applies to buildings that are at least 18 meters in height, at least 7 stories, with 2 or more residential units, and be a care home or a hospital. The Act itself places a legal duty holder on building owners to create a risk profile of their buildings and to reduce the risk of them. It requires records to be stored for 30 years. And it also looks after training, competence, and building materials, certification, and other key areas. But this is a whole series of other talks that I can't do justice by covering here, but they are absolutely critical for the success. In short, and really in short, it is the most far-reaching update to building and fire safety legislations in 50 years. And to oversee this, you got the Building Act on the left-hand side, primary legislation, secondary legislation, and guidance. And these are being updated and developed in the coming months and years. And to do this, it's going to be the Ministry of Housing, Community and Local Government with the Health and Safety Executive, working with the Building Regulatory Advisory Committee in working groups and committees and other teams across different organizations, regulatory bodies, and standard committees to go off and develop this in the coming years. And this is just the start of the journey for a safer industry. Whilst people think that this might be the start of the Act is out and that is it, this is going to be something we're going to see being developed over the next years and even decades, as we've seen in other industries such as railway with the Subsurface Railway Act in 1989 being updated even further in 2009 and continually being improved upon. So it is quite important that whilst a lot of our people are facing the challenges when trying to work out the best approach to comply with it and trying to look for guidance, it is for us as an industry to lead the way and not to wait for others to tell us what to do. So what's changing? Well, in the last century, we've seen an ever increasing complexity in construction to design bigger and more impressive buildings supported by a global supply chain. And when you think about it, 80% of the buildings in 2050 are standing today. And these buildings require upgrades, fit outs, rebuilds, and repurposing to create spaces that people want to continue to live and work in. And to carry out these works safely and meet specifications and legal requirements, we need to know the detailed history of these buildings. But despite the increased level of building complexity, the same cannot be said about project management information. And one of the common root causes for building failure is information management, enabling the right people to have access to the right information at the right time to make the right decisions. And we think about it in terms of data management, there are 4 key areas. Historical information is incomplete, incorrect, or simply outdated and absent. Or as we normally kind of see it as being, who has the information about it? Where is the information? Can I even get hold of it? And is that actually everything you've got on this building? And in the end, we typically go off and do a resurvey of it because it's quicker and safer for the team to work that way. And when you think about information management strategy, it's no longer just a tick box exercise as we're moving forward. As you go back into the Building Safeties Act, the duty holder is required to have the project certification at the end of a job. So when they want to go off and accept the building and commission the building for residential use, they have to have the right information in place. And if they don't, and they accept the building without that, then they will have a risk that they may end up in court due to, or even in prison, due to non-compliance against the requirements of the Act. And whether it's a mega project or a fit out, each project is unique, and projects and companies developing their own systems and structures to comply with project requirements, client requirements, and industry standards. And then we also have external stakeholders who have their own requirements and their own process. If you think about it, the local councils will also have their own requirements for how the information is managed and sent to them with planning applications, the environmental agency, and etc. And then with that, we got information in the project, information going to externals, and then you got the project being spread out over many years to complete. And in that time, there'll be numerous companies and people involved, each adding their own updates to the project history. And the result of all of this is a record of works spread across multiple offices, companies, organizations, teams, and most importantly, in a lot of engineers' attics and memory sticks and kitchen drawers across the country. And if you think that this doesn't apply to me, I don't do high rise, that this is something that somebody else is dealing with, or I'm going to wait until guidance is going to come out for it. You just have to look at what the Deputy Chair of the Building Regulation Advisory Committee has said about the Building Act being only applicable to high-rise buildings. And he said that the building safety regulator will be able to act across the built environment. So when you think about this one, they are going to start looking at other areas in that. And to support his view, you just have to look at the Building Safeties Act and a few interesting clauses and the amendments made to the Building Act itself. And the Building Act 120D 2B amendment is that the high-risk buildings is of a description specified in regulations made by the Secretary of State. So when you think about it, the Building Safeties Act will become applicable to whatever the Secretary of State deems it to be a high-risk building. And what we believe is going to happen going forward from looking at the relevant guidance and interviews of bits and pieces is that this will be applicable to all buildings with the public spaces and not just high-risk buildings. So this will be hotels, restaurants, schools, etc. will all come under the Act at some stage in the future. So if you're working in these areas and you don't think it's applicable to you, it may be quite a bit of a risky decision on your business. So this is the more interesting part, and how we can go off and win at this space at the moment and ensure your business's success going forward. I think we have to start at the very basics, and that is going to have to be investment and training. There is going to be a lot of requirements here on the duty holder and the accountable person with the Building Act. We've got a number of gateways for design through the process that have to be approved by the regulatory bodies and so on. So we're going to have to go off and have, as we all know, we're always looking for structural engineers who got the correct assessments to do Cat 3 checks. When we're looking at this, we're going to have a similar level of competency to be in place. You have to have the right CV, continuous professional development, as well as a potential qualification involved in that one as well. So we'll see some recognized qualifications coming into this for key roles to ensure statutory responsibilities are fulfilled, and it'll be a core focus on the building risk management. And when you think about building risk management, it is going to be around the building materials, compliance with existing regulations, management of evacuation routes, fire safety, as well as any temporary works that you're doing. And the primary one of this, and while it's not covered by the Building Safeties Act, is going to be for project managers. Now, not anybody can become an engineer. I think you have to be born that way. But to become a project manager, anybody can wander into project management. Anybody can become a project manager and move up to the chain. And so there's no real competence required for it. It's experience and kind of being in the right place sometimes even. So I think it's going to be coming forward in the secondary legislation and guidance is that if you are going to move through the gateway stages of your process for any project, you would have to have a competent person in place. And whilst the client has got a duty holder, there will have to be a project manager in place here. And as a person who manages the scope, the budget, scheduling and risk on all projects, and who's usually the person who instructs a change from one material to another because of schedule problems, costs, etc. This person needs to be held accountable for these kind of these decisions and to ensure compliance with the Building Safeties Act moving forward. On top of that, we're going to be looking at supply chain and offsite manufacturing integration. Now, there's two reasons for this kind of thing. One is we've got a number of people are leaving the industry. We're looking at a reduced labor supply within it, and we're looking at different ways to optimize and be able to work better. So an integration across a project's entire supply chain is going to be critical. And that's going to be for product record management and compliance, but also for optimizing and standardizing products across your projects. And this will reduce compliance paperwork, enable volume discounts for ordering, and also reduce rework costs. So instead of doing bespoke all the time, we should be able to start working towards standardization of approach, which means we will have better knowledge of what we're doing. We will not be doing reinventing the wheel every single time we do a project, but we'll be using standard and well-proven processes and procedures within our respective companies to undertake the works. In addition to this, there's going to be offsite manufacture. We've seen some great success stories in this space. It is still quite difficult to go under and do it and stuff, and sometimes it's kind of quite costly for some jobs or not applicable in others, which are quite bespoke and quite specialized. In the UK, recently there was a project where they pushed very hard to go off and have offsite manufacturing and try to reduce the program scheduling of the works by 15% of the job. It did add on 3 to 6 months on the design and planning stage of the work, so they had to start a bit earlier to be able to successfully reduce the construction phase of the works. But the wealth of data generated from that will be used for the next project and the project after that one, and they can improve their process procedures as they move forward. And that will then create a safer and a more efficient construction practice, because we won't just be doing lifting and temporary works and having to go off and plan on the day. We will know in advance as to what we're doing. And quite simply, those that are adopting these kind of processes and procedures and standardization and simplification of their works are going to be the key winners in this space. And with all of this kind of coming together, we're kind of looking still at data. We're still looking at information and being able to use that to be able to undertake work in a better way. And in a review of the building, Building a Safer Future, Dame Judith stated that digital records are to be in a format which is appropriately open and non-proprietary with proportionate security controls. And what you're saying is that it doesn't dictate a format, a standard, or a structure, but what it does require is that data is exchangeable, it's portable, that you can move information around between parties who need it. This comes back to having the right information with the right person at the right time to make the right decisions. Now, we are seeing an adoption of technology quite a lot in the space, and we're seeing it as a tech company, but we're seeing a lot of customers getting overwhelmed by the vast amount of data that's coming into their workspace. And we're not moving from Excel spreadsheets, but we're moving into dashboards that don't make sense to people, on top of the emails and the WhatsApp messages and everything else that we've got. So one of the core part of it is that looking at how the data is exchanged, where it's stored, how it will be shared with other parties that require access to it, not just for the project, but also in the future. And projects that hand over information to building owners in proprietary data formats, requiring expensive software to access or specialized skills, is going to be unacceptable in future. And we haven't seen it yet, but what we're going to start seeing is a number of buildings left empty, waiting for the building owner to accept it from the contractor. And that's going to be a stopgap of, we need the information in a format that we can use, that is open and accessible, that we can do our job as a duty holder, not as you just throwing information over and running away from the job. And that's going to be an interesting few court cases coming up on that one in the coming years. And that's going to be a very much a big challenge for the companies that think it doesn't apply to them right now. So in short, really, we can be certain that inaccessible data is not going to be the way forward on this one. So when you look at the forward-thinking companies and they're looking at investing in research and development upfront, in off-site manufacture, standardization of designs, they are going to be creating a vast amount of data that they can use in project and project. And I'm going to be honest with you, there's no silver bullet here. There's no magic solution to this one. And it is going to be costly and time consuming for companies upfront, and it will be slightly inefficient as well. But over time, as you improve your data management and your use of offsite manufacturing, standardized designs, etc., you will start seeing the return on that investment in the coming years and the coming projects. And this will give you the evidence and the support to be able to bid for better work, more complex projects, and to ensure that you can grow as a business and not stagnate and be held up by not being able to hand over buildings and to be stuck in court with various different clients and other people. And that is pretty much a quick run through of everything on this one.